Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, March the 8th. Now we do have a massive slate today. We do have 12 games, so as always guys, we're going to talk through each one of these 12 games. I'm going to try and go through each one of these games as quickly as possible. I don't want this video to be like 45 minutes long, so yeah, we're definitely going to fly through some of these games. There might be some that we spend a little bit more time on, but we're still going to go through each one individually, kind of talk about each team, give my early thoughts, what I do like, taking a first look at the slate on Tuesday night. And then as we do go through each game, we will build out an early core, talk about 5 players that do specifically stand out to me at first look for both DK and for Yahoo. But as always, before we get started with the breakdown, please do, guys, hit the like button down below. I always do appreciate the likes. If you're new to the channel and you have not yet, make sure you click that subscribe button as well. We're on the road to 25,000 subscribers. Hopefully, we'll reach that milestone within the next month or so, hopefully with your guys' help. If you're not, or if you have not yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also, go check out the sponsor of this video, Prize Picks. So Prize Picks, they're a player prop based DFS site where you're picking the over or the under on players' projections. It is very simple. You can take a look at their board for Wednesday's game, see the projections they have up already. Obviously, as we get closer to tip-off Wednesday night, there will be a ton of stuff up, a ton of props for just about every team, just about every player. And you pick whether you think they go over or under their projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10 extra money on Prize Picks. So if you guys want to go try out Prize Picks, make sure to sign up and use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And as always, I will be giving out some of my favorite plays on Prize Picks for today in my video that I'll upload to YouTube sometime Wednesday around 11, 12 Eastern. I'll post that video to YouTube talking through a couple of my favorite plays for Prize Picks today. And if you guys want more of my favorite plays on Prize Picks along with my other DFS content, you want to get in our Discord chat, that is all available for Patreon members. If you want to check out my Patreon, it's linked down below in the description. $20 per month gets you access to everything that I provide over on Patreon. But yeah, guys, let's take a look at this big Wednesday slate, 12 games. Again, we're going to try and go through these as quickly as possible. So we'll start off with Boston and Charlotte. For sure, one of the more appealing games right out of the gate. On the Boston side, really good matchup here going up against the Hornets. So I think a lot of the main guys from Boston look appealing. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams. Now, I would probably be limiting how many of these guys I played in one lineup. I think maybe 2 of the 3 is fine. I don't think I'd be like playing 3 Boston guys today because I think at that point you're really kind of up, you're really kind of capping your ceiling. But Jason Tatum at 10-4 is definitely a solid pay-up option here in a good matchup against a pretty bad defensive team in Charlotte. The Hornets have been playing really fast this year. I think Tatum has plenty of upside here. I definitely have interest in him at 10-4. But I think given the price savings, dropping down to Jaylen Brown, I mean, Jaylen Brown is $2,400 cheaper than Jason Tatum. I know Jaylen Brown hasn't been as good as Tatum lately, but he still has just as much upside, and you're getting a massive price difference between the two. So at 8K, I actually do like Jaylen Brown quite a bit on this slate. He's a guy that I haven't been on a ton this season, but I think this price point looks appealing, especially for this matchup. So I definitely like Jaylen Brown at 8K. He was someone that did stand out to me at first look. And on Yahoo, that's where Jaylen Brown really stands out. He's only $29 on Yahoo. I just think that's way too cheap for this matchup. So really like Jaylen Brown. And I think Robert Williams is in a great spot as well. I mean, we've seen centers be able to just kill this Hornets team. We saw what Andre Drummond did against them on Tuesday night. It's a really good spot for Robert Williams. He's had plenty of success against Charlotte so far this year, averaging 39 DK points through 2 games against them. His minutes have been super good. I mean, he's been playing 35, 36, 37 minutes a night. The Celtics have been running a really tight rotation. They've been only playing about 8 or 9 guys a night. So we can expect big minutes from Robert Williams, big minutes from Jason Tatum, from Jaylen Brown. All those guys are in play. Again, I don't think I'd play all 3 in the same lineup, but I think maybe 2 of the 3 is totally fine. And I definitely like Robert Williams as a center option. I think his upside in this matchup against this bad defensive team, against a Charlotte team that has really struggled to defend bigs, that has allowed a lot of fantasy points to centers this year. Great spot for Robert Williams. So like him quite a bit on both sides. On Yahoo, $28. I think you can definitely play Robert Williams over there. He did stand out to me as one of the better center options. And then the rest of Boston, Marcus Smart, Al Horford. Don't think I'd be going to those guys. Just really question their upside at their price points. Same with Derek White. It's really just like Tatum, Brown, and Williams that stand out from the Celtics. And then on the other side with Charlotte, really tough matchup here against Boston. Obviously, Boston been really good offensive team. They're not a team I usually like to attack, so I'm not super high on the Charlotte guys. I think LaMelo, Terry Rozier, Miles Bridges, they're always in play. If this game stays close, you're getting pretty big minutes from all 3 of those guys. LaMelo was solid on Tuesday night against Brooklyn. Played only 30 minutes, but did have 43 DraftKings points For some reason, I don't know why, but LaMelo's minutes have not been super, super high lately. I still think he probably plays like mid to high 30s minutes if the game's close. But you're just kind of looking at tournament options here. Terry Rozier has been playing out of his mind lately. I think it's a tough matchup, but at 8K, I mean, he's shown the upside to be worth his price tag. Does he continue to put up 50 DraftKings points a night? Like, I think there's some regression coming for sure for Terry Rozier. But he's been playing really well. I don't hate going there. And that's probably it from Charlotte. Most of my interest in this game is on the Boston side. So let's move on to the next game, Chicago and Detroit. Definitely a game that has a little bit of blowout risk here, but starting off with the Chicago side, big news to keep an eye on with Nikola Vucevic, who's currently questionable. With Vuce out last game, we did see Tristan Thompson start at center. Tristan Thompson played around 30 minutes. He had a tough matchup against Joel Embiid. This is a much better matchup going up against Detroit, so if Vuce is out again, I think we can look to Tristan Thompson as a value play. Now, I do question the upside on Tristan Thompson. He's not a guy that's normally going to put up a massive, massive output, but at 4,300, he probably plays 30 minutes. He probably is going to project decent at his salary, especially in a better matchup here. So don't mind Tristan Thompson for value if Vuce remains out. And if Vuce remains out, we can look to both DeRozan and Zach LaVine. They would get small boost if Vuce winds up sitting. Neither one were great last game against Philly. DeRozan played 39 minutes, had 48 DK points. Zach LaVine played, I believe, like upper 30s minutes. He had like 40 DK points. He had 40 DK points in 37 minutes. But again, you're going to get big minutes from these guys. Their usage would go up if Vuce were to sit. So really, it's just kind of waiting on the Vuce news. If Vuce plays, I'm not looking to really anything from Chicago. I think my interest in this game, or on the Chicago side specifically, is going to all depend on if Vuce is in or out. So other side of the game with Detroit, Detroit, they're a team I don't really like to target too often, but there are some guys that do stand out from Detroit today. Cade Cunningham coming off a massive, massive game against Atlanta. I haven't been super high on Cade Cunningham lately. He's not a guy that I've really been playing. It seems like anytime I play him, he either plays terrible or he gets in foul trouble or they get blown out. It seems like he always has these massive games when I'm not on him. So if I don't play Cade Cunningham today, he'll probably put up another massive game. But I think with the price coming up to 8K, Cade Cunningham doesn't stand out as a top option for me. I think he's just his floor is still so really low. Now, the ceiling is always there for Cade Cunningham. He can always put up a big game any night. But at 8K, he's just more of a contrarian option for me. Jeremy Grant and Sadiq Bey, like at their price points, I don't think they're standout options. Grant is 6,600 is fine, but not on a 12-game slate. He's not a guy I'm really prioritizing. Marvin Bagley, though, he's the guy that I really like from this Detroit team. So we saw Marvin Bagley play really well last game, played 36 minutes, and he actually did start the second half in place of Isaiah Stewart, who's going to be out today. So with Isaiah Stewart out, I'm expecting Marvin Bagley to start at center and to play big minutes. I mean, Marvin Bagley is someone they probably want to see what they have in him. If he's going to be a part of their future, they probably want to see if he's a guy that they can maybe trade later on. We don't really know, but I think the minutes are going to be there for Bagley regardless. I think he will play big minutes here. Played 36 last game. I think mid to high 30s is definitely on the table. And at 5K, I mean, Marvin Bagley, he has shown when he gets minutes, he can be productive. He should be productive in this Detroit offense. He's a guy that I like quite a bit today, assuming he is starting. He is very cheap on Yahoo, so I think $16 over there. He looks like one of the better plays at first look. Now, if they start Kelly Olynyk over Marvin Bagley, then obviously Kelly Olynyk would be a guy that I would like a lot. I think there's going to be more playing time for both Bagley and Olynyk, but I'm expecting Bagley to start. I'm expecting him to be the one that gets most of the minutes. So he's the guy I like most, but we'll have to pay attention to that starting lineup because without Isaiah Stewart, there's going to be more minutes available in the front court. Both Olynyk and Bagley should benefit. But that's probably it from Detroit. Nothing else really stands out here. So next game, we'll talk about Phoenix and Miami. Again, this should be pretty appealing to watch, should be fun to watch, but for DFS purposes, I don't think there's going to be too much that really stands out here. Two pretty good defenses going up against each other. Miami so far has been one of the slower paced teams in the league. Phoenix, they're still a top 10 team in pace, but I don't see too much I like here except for one guy, and that is Cameron Payne. So Cameron Payne is obviously someone that we've all been playing Cameron Payne these last few slates. He's just been way too cheap for what his role is right now without Chris Paul and without Devin Booker. We don't have any update yet on Devin Booker. Right now, DraftKings has him listed as questionable. He was out Tuesday for COVID protocols. I think he went into COVID protocols it was like a week ago so he last missed their last Wednesday's game against Portland. That was the first game he missed. So it's been almost a week since Booker got placed in protocols. I guess he could return today. I think it's maybe possible. But until we hear otherwise, I'm just going to expect Booker to be out again. So as long as Booker's out again, we obviously know CP3 is going to be out. We should continue to get massive, massive workload for Cameron Payne. Should continue to play big minutes. 34 on Tuesday against Orlando. Played 36 the game before that against Milwaukee. Obviously, it's a back-to-back, so there's maybe a little bit of concern he doesn't play as many minutes as he has been, but even if he gets like 30 minutes, like Cameron Payne has just been so productive without Chris Paul and without Devin Booker, that even in 30 minutes, he could put up 40 DraftKings points. Tougher matchup against Miami, not a team I really like to attack, but Cameron Payne's role is just so good right now that he should be close to 8K, at least while Devin Booker remains out. So I'm really high on Cameron Payne once again, 6,500 on DraftKings. He's only $20 on Yahoo. I think he's way, way too cheap over there. He looks like a really good play once again, assuming Booker does sit. If Booker plays, I think Payne would still be viable, but I would definitely be a lot lower on him if Booker played. And then the rest of Phoenix, DeAndre Ayton, he had a really big game on Tuesday against Orlando, 46 DK points in 36 minutes. Really tough matchup here against Bam. Not a spot I really want to attack, but I think DeAndre Ayton's role should be pretty good while Booker and Paul are both out. It's now back-to-back games that we've seen DeAndre Ayton take 19 shots, so he's been getting a lot more shot attempts. Rebounds were super high on Tuesday. Again, tough matchup, but I think Ayton's still viable. The rest of Phoenix, Bridges, Crowder. Bridges is almost 7K. Crowder's almost 6K. Those guys don't really stand out to me. Landry Shamet was really chalky on Tuesday's slate. Had a solid game. Look, I didn't play Landry Shamet on Tuesday, and I know he was a chalk play that kind of hit for everyone. I'm fine just avoiding Landry Shamet at 4,400 in a matchup against Miami. And if Landry Shamet is going to be really popular again, that's a guy that I'm just going to probably avoid. And if he beats me again, he beats me. But 4,400 for Landry Shamet, I think, is too expensive for my liking. So that's really it from Phoenix. Now on the Miami side, this is a really tough team to get excited about because they're fully healthy. They've got Kyle Lowry back. Victor Oladipo is available to play now. He's been going to get some minutes. So, man, when it comes to this Heat team, you just don't really know who's going to put up the big game on a nightly basis. We saw Tyler Hero do really well in their last game. He put up 41 DK points against Houston. Jimmy Butler was kind of mediocre in that game, had 38 DK points. I think Bam was kind of mediocre. He had 34. The matchup against Phoenix, not great. It's not a spot I really want to be going too heavy on Miami. Would I be surprised if Jimmy Butler had a good game here or Bam Adebayo had a good game? I wouldn't be surprised, but there's really nothing that stands out from the Heat today. They're fully healthy. I just don't really see much I like here given the pricing and given the matchup too. So let's move on to the next game, the Lakers and the Rockets. Big one to keep an eye on with injury news. So LeBron James, he's been questionable for just about every single slate, it seems like, for the last 3 weeks now. Finally, I don't know why, but finally last game he was questionable and he actually didn't play. So LeBron's questionable again. I don't really know what to make of this. I'm guessing LeBron plays, but given that he was questionable last game and actually did sit out, there's at least a possibility that maybe he sits out again. We don't really know. It's a matchup against Houston. It's a game you would think the Lakers might be able to win without LeBron. So just keep an eye on this. If LeBron does play, obviously the matchup is fantastic, so he is definitely a solid pay-up option on this slate if he's able to go. If he does play, I'm not really looking to any other Lakers, but if LeBron's out again, we can look to Malik Monk, we can look to Russell Westbrook, Carmelo, THT. Westbrook was the guy that I swapped to on the last slate whenever LeBron got ruled out, and obviously it didn't work out. Westbrook had a terrible game. The matchup here against the Rockets is just about as good as it gets. It's a revenge game for Westbrook. If LeBron sits again, it's going to be hard to just completely write off Westbrook. I know he's been so freaking bad this year, but you would have to think the minutes are going to be there, the opportunity would be there without LeBron. The matchup's amazing. I would still be pretty high on Westbrook if LeBron sits again, and I think Malik Monk, Carmelo, definitely THT would be a good value. THT did start last game in place of LeBron, played 31 minutes, had 30 DK points. I would like him quite a bit as a value play if LeBron sits again. So this Lakers team and my interest in this team is all dependent on if LeBron plays or not. And the last guy, like Dwight Howard, so he did start last game, but he only played 18 minutes. So if Dwight Howard starts again, I don't think I'd be going there just because I don't think the minutes are very secure. But the rest of those guys that we talked about would all be viable if LeBron is out again. And then on the other side of this game with Houston, some injury news to keep an eye on here with Houston as well. So Christian Wood was a late scratch last game for an illness. He is questionable for today's game. We saw Şengün start in place of Christian Wood. Played pretty decent. Played 30 minutes in a tough match against Miami. Had 28 DraftKings points. If Christian Wood is out again and Şengün starts, which I expect he would, I think 5,100 for Şengün would probably be too cheap for this matchup against the Lakers, a spot that he should have plenty of success in. I would definitely like Şengün if he starts again. I think Christian Wood, if he actually winds up playing at 8K, I would like Christian Wood quite a bit. He's a guy that I really haven't been on much as of late, but given this game environment, given the pace of this game, both these teams are top 5 in pace on the season. This game has a pretty high total, I do believe. It's a game that I think should stay close. Like, I don't think the Lakers are good enough to blow out the Rockets right now. So I think we get full minutes from Christian Wood today. And at 8K, like in this matchup, he definitely has big-time upside. So I would actually like Christian Wood quite a bit if he plays. I think Kevin Porter Jr. looks really appealing as well. Love the matchup for Kevin Porter Jr. I mean, the Lakers' defense, especially against guards, has just been terrible. I'm pretty sure when it comes to fantasy points allowed to the point guard position, they're like top in the league. It's just a great spot for Kevin Porter Jr. He's had plenty of success against this Lakers team so far this season. Through 3 games against them, he's averaging over 38 DraftKings points per game. In my opinion, 6,300 is too cheap for KPJ in this matchup, in a game where he should play his full minutes, in a game that should stay close. He's a guy that does stand out as well from this Rockets team. You know, the Rockets, they're a team I don't really like to be betting on heavily, to be playing a lot of guys from, but the spot here is just so good. This is a game that should stay close. The pricing looks appealing too. I definitely like Kevin Porter Jr. on both sides. And then the rest of the Rockets, you know, Dennis Schroeder, Jalen Green, Şengün. Well, Şengün's going to depend on if Christian Wood plays or not, but Schroeder, Green, Tate, like I don't think these guys really stand out. Tate is questionable, so this will be something to monitor. You know, if he does wind up sitting, there probably would be more minutes available for KJ Martin. So like KJ Martin at 4K, it would be someone that we could consider as a value play if he were to start for Tate. But in general, man, a lot to like in this Lakers-Rockets game on both sides, and there's definitely some important injuries that we will need to keep an eye on. But next game, let's go ahead and talk about Atlanta and Milwaukee. So, you know, rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals here from last season. You know, two fairly fast-paced teams so far this year. The Bucks, they are 6th in pace. The Hawks are, you know, about middle of the pack. But this is another game that should be, you know, fairly high scoring, should stay close. On the Atlanta side, when it comes to this Hawks team, you know, right now with them basically fully healthy, Kevin Huerter was out last game, but I don't think that has too much of an impact. With them fully healthy, Trae Young's really the only guy that stands out from Atlanta. I don't love this matchup against Milwaukee. He's probably going to see a lot of Drew Holiday, who's obviously a really good defender. But Trae's been able to have a lot of success against Milwaukee this season. He's averaged over 63 DraftKings points per game against them. We know Trae has massive upside on a nightly basis. He does still offer a pretty low floor. We've seen a lot of, you know, disappointing games from Trae, especially as of late. But the massive ceiling is still there. I think as a tournament option, Trae is totally fine today. He's probably the only guy I'm really looking to from Atlanta on this slate. And then on the other side of this game with Milwaukee, so the Bucks, they are on a back-to-back today. There's a lot of teams on back-to-backs today. Milwaukee is one of them. So, you know, pay attention to the injury report for the Bucks. We kind of always know when it comes to this team, anytime they're on a back-to-back, there's always a possibility that they do sit some guys. I don't think they would sit guys here, especially since they did blow out the Thunder on Tuesday's game, and you know none of the starters really played their full minutes. So I'm expecting Giannis, Middleton, everyone to play. If Giannis plays, I mean at 12K, he's definitely someone we can look to as a pay-up option here. Now, does Giannis stand out as a priority option on this slate? I don't think so. But it's all going to depend on, you know, what kind of value we get as the day goes on. If this is a slate where there's a lot of value, which given there's 12 games, there's probably going to be value that opens up, then yeah, I mean, if we have a ton of cheap options, I would probably want to be paying up for Giannis because he has, you know, as high of a floor and as high of a ceiling as anyone, you know, any slate he's on. I mean, he only played 28 minutes against OKC Tuesday in a blowout. The dude still had almost 70 DraftKings points. You know, I was worried about blowout for Giannis on Tuesday, and it didn't even matter. He put up 67 DraftKings points in 28 minutes. I mean, the guy's incredible. It's just that on this slate, right now at least, there's not a ton of standout value. That could change, though, as the day goes on. If we do get a lot of value, I think paying up for Giannis is totally fine. Now, the rest of Milwaukee, I'm not really looking to anyone else on this team, I don't think. Do want to keep an eye on the starting lineup because Jordan Nwora did start on Tuesday. He played pretty big minutes, too. He played 38 minutes. He wasn't super productive. But if Jordan Nwora winds up starting again for 3,500, he is going to be a really good value play just because it seems like the minutes are there right now. And if he were to start again, I think we would get big minutes from him. So I will definitely be keeping an eye on the Bucks starting lineup. Obviously, it's all going to depend on if Grayson Allen plays or not. If Grayson Allen does sit again, I think we will see Nwora start. And in that case, he would be a guy that we could look to for value. But that's it for this game. Next one, OKC in Minnesota. You know, not one that I'm going to be super interested in on the OKC side. It's a back-to-back for OKC. Definitely keep an eye on the injury report here. We've seen OKC, you know, sit guys on back-to-backs. I wouldn't be surprised if they do something funky and, you know, maybe sit SGA or something. But if SGA does play, as long as the game stays close, we know SGA has massive upside, even in a blowout against Milwaukee on Tuesday. I mean, SGA just put up another massive game. I mean, the dude's just been playing out of his mind lately. 72 DraftKings points against Milwaukee, played 35 minutes, even in the blowout. Minnesota, we just saw these teams play pretty recently. It was a blowout. SGA didn't play his full minutes. He still had almost 50 DraftKings points, though, in only 30 minutes. Obviously, there's blowout risk here. I know Minnesota's going to be basically back to full strength. I think Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell are both expected to play today. So it's a scary spot for sure, but if the game could stay close, SGA does offer plenty of upside. As long as, Giddey and Dort remain out, the opportunity is going to be there for SGA. Now, the rest of OKC, I'm not really looking to anyone else. Poku, Isaiah Roby, Trey Mann, Baisley. I just don't want to be rostering these guys on a 12-game slate. So let's move on to the other side of this game with Minnesota. And when it comes to Minnesota, there's a lot of question marks right now, but I believe we did get word that Anthony Edwards is expected to play. I think I saw some report on that he's at least on track to play. So Anthony Edwards should be back. D'Angelo Russell sat out their last game, but I think there's a pretty good chance he returns today. I mean, if Minnesota is fully healthy, if Towns and or if Russell and Edwards play, there's not much that stands out here. Obviously, Cat has been amazing these last few games, but I think Russell coming back, Edwards coming back would definitely hurt Towns a little bit. The matchup's fantastic, but at almost 11K, Towns would not be someone I'd be really going out of my way to play. And the same could be said for Russell and Edwards. There's just not much from this Minnesota team that really stands out. I mean, 4 of their 5 starters are questionable right now. I think Beverly and Vanderbilt are both questionable. Yeah, Beverly's questionable, and Vanderbilt's questionable. So 4 of their 5 starters are questionable right now. I'm assuming that all these guys are just going to play, but by some chance, if these guys start getting ruled out, that would definitely change my thoughts on Minnesota. But for now, expecting them to be fully healthy, there's really not much I like at their price tags, and especially in a game that has a lot of blowout risk. I don't think I'm going to be too heavy on Minnesota today. So let's move on to the next game. We got 6 more to go over. I'm going to, again, try and go through these as quick as possible. So looking at Orlando and New Orleans, both these teams on back-to-backs. Going to have to watch the injury report for Orlando. But when it comes to the Magic today, there isn't too much that really stands out. Markelle Fultz did play on Tuesday, but they've already said he's going to rest for this game, so he'll be out. And Jalen Suggs was questionable Tuesday, did not play. Don't have any update yet on him. Definitely will keep an eye on that Suggs injury, because if Suggs does wind up sitting, I think without Suggs and without Fultz, there would be a lot of minutes available for R.J. Hampton. Now, R.J. Hampton did not play that well. On Tuesday, he started once again, only played 24 minutes, only had 18 DraftKings points. But you would have to think without Fultz and without Suggs too, that Hampton would probably start and play around 30 minutes. So he would be someone worth considering for value at 3,600 if Suggs is out again. If Suggs plays, I mean, I'm just not looking at much here. The matchup's pretty good against the Pelicans, but the Magic are a team I just don't really like to roster. And, on a 12-game slate, I really don't want to be loading my lineup up with Magic guys who, especially like when it comes to this team, and we literally saw on Tuesday, I think Wendell Carter played the most minutes out of anyone, and he only played 31 minutes or 32 minutes. Like, it's pretty clear they're kind of spreading out the minutes right now. They're playing a lot of guys. Maybe they did that because it was a back-to-back, and they wanted to have their guys fresh for this game, but man, this Magic team, I mean, they're kind of in full-blown tank mode. They're not trying to really run their starters into the ground. They're not really trying to win games. This is just not a team I want to be heavily invested in on a nightly basis. So not much interest in Orlando. And then on the Pelican side, going to have to watch the status of Brandon Ingram. So Brandon Ingram was ultimately questionable for Tuesday's game and did not play. Ingram's questionable once again, or he's, at least right now, I guess he's just questionable. So we'll have to monitor this. If Brandon Ingram plays, there's not much that I really like from the Pelicans. CJ McCollum is fine if Ingram plays, but I would definitely like him a lot more if Ingram's out. We saw CJ McCollum have a massive game, even in a blowout against Memphis. He only played 31 minutes, but he still had 58 DraftKings points. I mean, CJ's role without Ingram would just be absurd. He would get a ton of usage, a ton of assist opportunities. He would just have the ball in his hands a ton. Would love CJ McCollum today if Ingram is out again. But again, if Ingram plays, not much really stands out here. So I think a lot of my interest in the Pelicans today is going to depend on if Brandon Ingram is in or out. Let's move on to the next game, the Knicks and the Mavs. Probably one of the least appealing games on the slate. There's not much I like here. 2 very slow-paced teams going up against each other. Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, they're always rosterable. They're always guys you could play. But on this slate, for me, they would probably just be guys I'd sprinkle in and nothing more than that. I guess the one piece of news to keep an eye on is the status of Mitchell Robinson, who's currently questionable. If Mitchell Robinson does play, without Nerlens Noel, who's already out, we would probably see Taj Gibson start in place of Mitchell Robinson. Taj Gibson last game played 26 minutes after Robinson left. He left very early on in that game, literally like 2 minutes after the game had started. Put up 23 DK points in those 26 minutes. Taj Gibson is a guy that I never get excited to roster. He really doesn't offer much upside. But if he winds up starting for Robinson at 3,400, he'd be a viable cheap play. You probably see Jericho Sims getting some minutes too, but I don't think I'd be interested in him. I think whoever starts probably would be Gibson. He'd be the guy I'd look to. And yeah, that's really it. Like, there's not much from the Knicks I'm looking to. And then on the Dallas side, I mean, Luka, he's always in play. Matchup against the Knicks, I think, is fine for him. Like, Luka can post a huge game in any, post a huge game in any matchup. He went for 76 DraftKings points last game against Utah. I mean, Luka's always a guy we can look to, and I think depending on how much value we get as the day goes on, Luka is someone that I would definitely want to try and get in, or maybe build around if we get a lot of value. Now, right now, it's very tough to fit Luka in just because there's not a ton of standout value, but that could all change as the day goes on. I think Luka is always in play. Definitely someone you could look to in tournaments. I think the Jalen Brunson news is kind of important because last game we did see Spencer Dinwiddie start in place of Jalen Brunson, and he actually played huge minutes. He played 40 minutes, went for 31 DK points. He wasn't super productive, but man, 40 minutes for Spencer Dinwiddie. You would have to think if Brunson's out again, we'll see Dinwiddie start and probably play big minutes once again. So I would definitely like Dinwiddie in tournaments if Brunson sits. If Brunson plays, then Brunson and Dinwiddie, neither one of those guys stand out. So that's really it from the Mavs. Let's move on to the next game, the Raptors and the Spurs. On the Raptors side, going to have to watch the status of Fred VanVleet, who's currently questionable. Fred VanVleet's been questionable for the last few games. He has not played. But right here it says that he was a full participant in Tuesday's practice. So he's expected to make his return. So I'm guessing VanVleet plays today. If he does, that probably takes me off of Siakam and Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent just because, obviously when those guys were playing without VanVleet, they were priced up a lot, and now they're kind of overpriced for VanVleet to be back. So, man, if VanVleet returns, there's not much I like from Toronto. The matchup is really good. San Antonio's been playing fast this year, but the pricing on Toronto just makes everyone tough to get to if VanVleet's back. Now, maybe you could go to VanVleet. If he plays, he's only 8,200, but there's not a ton I really like from the Raptors today. And then on the San Antonio side, it's kind of the same thing. DeJounte Murray, one of these guys that always has massive upside and can put up a big game any night. Don't love this matchup, though, against Toronto. Toronto defensively against guards this year has been really good. They've done really good at, done really well at kind of stopping the other team's, number one player. I know a lot of, big-time guys have struggled against Toronto this year. A lot of guards specifically have struggled. So don't love DeJounte Murray today. I think he's just more of a low-owned dart throw. The rest of San Antonio, Pirtle, Keldon Johnson, none of these guys really stand out to me. Honestly, this is another game I'm just not that interested in. Not much stands out here. So next game, Denver and Sacramento. On Denver, I think Nikola Jokic is the one guy we can look to here. He's the one guy that stands out. I think Jokic on this slate, probably one of the better pay-up options. He just continues to dominate on a nightly basis. Back-to-back huge games for Jokic. 95 DraftKings points against the Pelicans, 75 DraftKings points last game against Golden State. And now he gets to face one of the worst defenses in the league, the Kings, who have been bottom 10 in defensive rating. They play at a fast pace. Such a good spot here for Jokic. He should have no trouble going up against Sabonis. I really, really like Jokic today. Probably one of my favorite pay-up options if I can find a way to get him in. The rest of Denver, though, even though it's a good matchup, I'm not looking to really anyone else on this team. Maybe if Will Barton sits again, you could look to Aaron Gordon. Maybe you could go there, but really Jokic is the guy I like from Denver. And then on Sacramento, not too much stands out here either. I think Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox are two guys that you can always play. But for Sabonis, it's a really tough spot against Jokic. And I know so far this year, I want to say he has kind of struggled against Jokic. He did go for 49 DK points last time these teams played on February 26th. But this is not a spot where I really love targeting Sabonis today. I don't think he's going to be someone I'm too heavy on. De'Aaron Fox, another guy that always has big-time upside, can put up a big game any night. But on this slate at 9,300, does Fox stand out as one of the better point guard options? I don't think so. Not much I really like from Sacramento today. This is not a team I'm super high on. Just not much I really like here. So let's move on to the next game, Portland and Utah. Portland, they're one of these teams right now that is really injury depleted. They're missing a lot of guys, but the pricing has kind of adjusted for that. Obviously, we saw last game, Anthony Simons was out. Josh Hart, obviously was terrible. I played Josh Hart last slate. He was god-awful. They got blown out. If Anthony Simons is out again, we could go back to Josh Hart, but there's obviously concern that Portland just gets the shit beat out of them. Without Simons, this team's already pretty bad without Nurkic and without Dame. But without Simons, they're really bad. So there would be a lot of blowout risk here if Simons doesn't play. If Simons does play, I guess that makes the game a little bit more likely to stay close. But I'm really not too high on many Portland guys. It's a tough spot on the road against Utah. This is just not a spot where I really want to be loading up on Blazers. I will say that if Simons is out again, we could maybe go to Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams did start in place of Simons last game, played really, really well. 49 DraftKings points in 34 minutes. So far with Portland, he's been pretty productive when he has gotten an opportunity. He's one guy that I think he would play in a blowout. So I think Brandon Williams, regardless, is someone you can look to because even if this game gets out of hand, he'll still be out there. Whereas like a guy like Josh Hart is obviously not going to play in a blowout. So I think Brandon Williams at 5,500 is still in play today if Anthony Simons is out again. If Simons plays, obviously we're not looking to Williams. There's not much I like from Portland, to be honest with you, but I definitely think if Simons is out, we could look to Brandon Williams again. And that's really it from Portland. On the Utah side, Utah, they're a team, when they're fully healthy, they're not a team I really go out of my way to target. I think Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are both always playable. Obviously, Mitchell here against Portland has plenty of upside. I mean, Portland's defense is terrible, especially without Nurkic. This is just not a team you really worry about defensively. And it's, honestly, when they're fully healthy, they're still a bad defensive team. So I think 9K for Mitchell is about right for this slate. There's obviously some blowout risk in this game, but I don't think anyone would be surprised to see Mitchell do really well here in what is a really good matchup for him. But he's more of a contrarian option for me. Rudy Gobert, I think it's a great spot for Gobert going up against Drew Eubanks and Trenton Watford. I mean, Greg Brown. Like, these guys are not going to stop Gobert. Like, this could definitely be one of those games where Gobert puts up like 20 and 20 and has like 50 DraftKings points now. Does Gobert stand out as a top center option today? I don't think so, but in tournaments, he should be fairly low owned. I don't hate going to Gobert. I think the matchup's really good. I think it sets up well for him. As long as the game stays close, I wouldn't be surprised to see a big game here from Gobert. So him and Mitchell are both playable. The rest of Utah, though, Conley, Bojan, Clarkson, none of these other guys stand out to me. So let's move on to the last game of the night, the Wizards and the Clippers. On the Wizards, they got Porzingis back now. Porzingis did make his debut for the Wizards last game. He played limited minutes, only played 21 minutes, but he was really, really productive. He had 36 DraftKings points in those 21 minutes. I think Porzingis is going to be productive with this Wizards team. I think we're going to see him probably average, 45, probably not 45, but maybe 40, 45 DK points a night when he's fully healthy. 7,600 is probably too cheap for him if we knew he was playing full minutes, but obviously we don't know how many minutes he's going to play. He only played 21 last game. I doubt he plays like 36 today. Probably 25, 26 minutes. So as long as Porzingis is still limited, it's going to be tough to roster him. But Kuzma's role should still be really good. Last game with Porzingis in, Kuzma still did fine. Had 47 DK points in 36 minutes. Kuzma's still going to play big minutes and still going to be one of the go-to guys on offense, one of the top options. I think now that Porzingis is playing, though, that does hurt Kuzma a little bit. Probably makes him just a contrarian dart throw at 9,100. He's not someone I'm really prioritizing. And the rest of the Wizards, KCP, Ish Smith, Denny Avdia, like none of these guys look appealing at all. Especially now that Porzingis is playing, like that just takes my interest. It takes my interest in these guys, in these other guys, just down even more. I mean, I already never really play KCP and Ish Smith and Avdia, and now that Porzingis is playing, none of these guys stand out to me. So it's really just like, I mean, honestly, there's nothing from the Wizards, but if you want to go to Kuzma, I don't hate it. We'll have to watch if Porzingis is limited again. I'm assuming he will be, but by some chance, if Porzingis is not limited, he might actually be kind of an appealing play for playing for this Wizards team where he should be really competitive. But we'll have to, where he should be playing really well in games that are competitive. But yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on that. So let's move on to the other side of this game, talk about the Clippers real quick before we do end the video. So look at the Clippers today. I mean, not too much really stands out here. The Clippers are another team on a back-to-back. At the time I'm making this video, they're getting blown out by the Warriors. I have the game on right above me on my TV. They're losing by literally 27 right now. So Clippers looking like they're going to get blown out on Tuesday. On a back-to-back here, I would expect everyone's going to be good to go, but keep an eye on the injury report. Anytime teams are on back-to-backs, there's always a chance that they maybe sit some guys. But there's really nothing that stands out from the Clippers today. I mean, on a 12-game slate, we just see the Clippers. I mean, they've been such a frustrating team this year. They get blown out a lot. Their rotations are just crazy and out of whack. I really don't want to be rostering any Clippers on this slate. Maybe you could go to Zubac in a good matchup, but he's almost 7K now. Maybe you could go to Marcus Morris, but yeah, I just don't really like much here. I think really in general, there's not much I like in this last game. So that's really it, guys. That's it for all 12 of these Wednesday games. I know it was a big slate, really long video. Hope you guys did enjoy, though. I hope this video did help. If you enjoyed, make sure you click that like button down below. Click that subscribe button as well. Also, go check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Go sign up for PrizePicks and use code NOAH. When you do, PrizePicks will give you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And again, if you already play on PrizePicks, you can actually check out my video that I'll upload probably sometime on Wednesday, early Wednesday morning around 11, 12 Eastern. I'll get that video up talking about some of my favorite plays for prospects today. Make sure to check that video out, and if you want more of my favorite plays on prospects along with all of my other updated DFS content you want to get in our Discord chat, that is all available for Patreon members. If you want to check out the Patreon, you can do so. It's linked down below in the description. $20 per month gives you access to everything that I do provide on Patreon. But yeah, guys, big Wednesday slate tonight. I hope you enjoyed the video. I wish you guys the best of luck, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.